Now, when you go to Matthew 24, in fact, we want to turn to that right now. Matthew chapter 24, before Jesus introduced the abomination of desolation in verse 15, he said this in verse 5, "For many shall come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and shall deceive many. And you shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that you be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. For nation shall rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom, and there shall be famines and pestilences and earthquakes in divers places. All these are the beginning of sorrows. Then," and the then here seems to imply at the same time these things are going on, "shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and you shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake, and then shall many be offended, and shall betray one another, and shall hate one another, and many false prophets shall rise, and shall deceive many, and because iniquity shall abound, the love of many shall wax cold, but he that shall endure unto the end, the same shall be saved. And this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come." He seems to be describing here, before verse 15, major things which will be taking place before the abomination of desolation, because in verse 15 he then introduces the abomination of desolation. The impression is that Jesus here is spelling out things in chronological order for this future period of time. The abomination of desolation takes place in the middle of the 70th week. That's followed by the 3.5-year Great Tribulation. But he's saying here, at least the implication is, before the abomination of desolation in the 70th week, you will have transpired in the world what Jesus called the beginning of sorrows, literally the beginning of birth pangs. And he's saying, here are the things that will be involved in the beginning of birth pangs. You will have false messiahs, those who will appear upon the world scene saying, I'm the Messiah. In addition, the earth will experience wars and rumors of wars. You'll have nation rising against nation, kingdom against kingdom. The earth will experience famines, pestilences, earthquakes in many different places. Jesus says all those are the beginning of birth pangs. The impression is that's what will be transpiring on the face of the earth before the abomination of desolation in the middle of the 70th week. So the implication is these beginning of birth pangs will be taking place during the first half of the 70th week. In other words, during the first 3.5 years. So that it's not going to be an easy time in many places in the world, even during the first 3.5 years. Now, the interesting thing is, when you go to the Old Testament, you have references there to these kind of things which will happen in the future, and you have Hebrew words which are the parallel of our English word tribulation, even the parallel of the Greek word for tribulation. So the implication is that these beginning of birth pangs are also descriptive of what you could call tribulation. Now, notice an interesting implication here. He talks here about the beginning of birth pangs. That very expression indicates that there will be more birth pangs coming after. The beginning of birth pangs, then there will be later birth pangs. He's drawing a metaphor with the birth cycle of birth pangs of a woman as she's about to deliver a new life into the world. She has birth pangs at the beginning. They're severe, they cause pain, but there will be more severe birth pangs, what we often call hard labor birth pangs, after her beginning birth pangs. So Jesus is saying that during the first half of the 70th week, you have severe things going on in the world, but not as severe as the things that are going to come later on. In the beginning, in the first half of the 70th week, you have the beginning birth pangs, or tribulation. But in the second half, you're going to have great tribulation, much more intense agony than with just tribulation in the first half. And therefore, in the second half, the great tribulation also means that's when you have the severe hard labor birth pangs transpiring here on planet Earth. Now, so that this 7-year period of time, whether you call it the tribulation period, since you have tribulation in the first half and great tribulation in the second half, or whether you choose to call it the 70th week of Daniel 9 from Daniel 9:27, either way we're talking about this 7-year period of time immediately before the glorious second coming of Christ back to planet Earth to set up God's millennial kingdom rule here on planet Earth.